All right, I'm going to be using FGU test environment to do this demo. Just kind of show off all my extensions and I guess some other people's extensions. Really just showing off how I set things up in play. I've made a couple characters here already just to be ready to test this, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in the character combat tracker, which I will from now on refer to as the CT. As you can see, it's got data defined in here, just a few cells. This is coming straight out of Character Wizard. You go ahead and set the usual combat actions. These spells are using modules that I've defined. And actually, I also have module priority set on them. Basically, that just lets Character Wizard in my advantages CW know who gets priority on displaying spells or other things that are duplicated. Because when my players create things, I want them to have just what my campaign wants them to have. In this case, I'm using the 5EA Grimpress stuff. I've got basically the standard PHB, DMG, and MM, and the Monsters of the Universe. I've also got a specially made set of classes that enable me to point to the actual classes that have links to the exact things I want them to use in terms of spells, because spells don't always come up to be the same. And that's what this supplemental data from Grimpress is. And you can use any supplemental data or local data. I mean, essentially, I just copied Barbarian here from AE5E into local because I want to show that it also looks up that. But essentially, it's just the same classes from WotC, but they basically have links to ensure that they're pointing to the right spell definitions. Because spell definitions are usually horrible in how they're defined for actions and things. So these supplemental data have overridden almost all of them. And I set that as my priority level 1, which is the highest. And the others I just leave it to. It's arbitrary because modules will be looked up in alphabetical order unless you load them and unload them in the game. And then, of course, they'll be any order. Hence module priority to assure that my stuff is actually in the order I want it. And then for the actual base modules that we're running with from WotC, those don't have any priority. Okay, so I've set those modules up. I've created a few characters in Character Wizard. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop these guys into the CT. And as soon as I do that, Equipped Effects is going to repopulate some of the things that were in abilities but weren't in the action tab. And when you look at the action tab, you can see a bunch of things here at the bottom for generic actions, which people tend to forget are there. And it gives you a little help on doing a bunch of those. Let's see. In this case, it just threw out Fey Ancestry as an extra. It had already had the other ones from Character Wizard. But of course, Character Wizard chose what I wanted. And just while I'm thinking of it, let's go ahead and put some arrows in there. Drop them into the inventory. And then I'll just set this to 20 because that's going to become relevant in my games also. Okay, we're going to also look at this guy. He's currently got these actions. He's a rogue. And I'll go ahead and drop him in there. And he will self-populate anything that he needs. In this case, what has it got? Sneak attack. And these you can tell are from, when I see this summary up top, I know they're coming from my supplemental data from A5E. and it'll always link back to the PHP for legal licensing reasons. This is actually the PHP data. There's options in E to turn that off, but they essentially all get translated so that we're not stomping on anybody's stuff. Let's see, it also got a bunch of other things, looks like. And it just automatically figured. And of course, any custom effects defined in the AE5E data for things that are permanent that you always want up here will also be automatically populated. There's a ton of naming rules and how they get those across, which I'm not going to cover. You can look those up yourself in equipped effects, which I'll always call E. And that's those first two I've put in, and then I usually always stick them in the party sheet in the order, just so I have them in there. So get them in the party sheet, go down to order. We'll stick leaf there, see which way. Formation. Actually, I'll have them like that. Now, I always thought this was orientation, but it turns out it doesn't really set the orientation of these guys. So, but I have an option in Carrier that's going to set them as I move them because I like to see the orientation just for fun. That is it. And I'm going to use my little cheat sheet here and see what's next. Okay, did show module priority. Okay, let's create a new character in Character Wizard. And this is using Advantages CW. What Advantages CW does is it makes sure that these things are only getting one version. It tells you, based on normal CW, what it is based on module priority, which one takes priority. So let's call it, we'll make a Dragonborn. Let's say he's Gold Dragonborn, just making it up. And we're going to make him a wizard. Now, if you look here, it'll tell you, at least in the AE5EW world, that the module priorities here for all these guys have been chosen for AE5E PHP classes, so that when people create these, any links they use in there will actually be pointing to the spell links that I actually want them to use, the supplemental ones, which are more detailed and I like better. Also, you can see this one, Barbarian, because I had copied him to the local campaign also. Local always trumps everything in these things. So if you have your own local thing defined in here, it's going to be the one that shows up. Okay, so let's make him a wizard. I'm just going to go through what it actually tells me here. Select skills. I'll just throw Arcana. Throw Insight. Not thinking through these things. And then we go to spells. Another case, you will now see that these spells are all the ones for, what's it called? The AE5E data when you see a summary. And if it doesn't, if AE5E doesn't have something, it'll pick one from the normal data. Either way, it'll always translate everything correct here. And in Character Wizard, I'm not going to defend or say what Character Wizard is. I just use it because I'm lazy. This says 3 cantrips, so I'm going to go ahead and do message, Mage Hand, and Firebolt. Go to 1. Again, these are all, spells here that if they are defined in the supplemental data, for overrides, right? You'll see them here. And if not, then they'll be the first come, first serve based on any module priority, which I don't usually set module priority because there's usually only one of these. And I'm not using the zillion modules, but trust me, people use a zillion modules sometime. And they have multiple versions of each. But I want my players not to have to pick through multiple versions. I want them to use the version that I've chosen, module priority. What am I going to pick here? We got 6 known spells. Okay, we'll do Featherfall, Mage Armor, Fog Cloud, Detect Magic, and let's pick something lower. Silent Image, Sleep. Oh, Thunderwave. I always like Thunderwave. Okay. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I got one more. Say comprehend languages. And you can tell that these are going to be coming up based on the source, which in this case is wizard. These have lots, but that's how this is sorting it out. And again, this is all in test. I go to abilities. I usually just pick standard to keep it moving. We'll just pick Sage. Just pick some skills. Deception. History. We'll pick Elvish and Undercommon. And I'll do my starting kit. We'll do a dagger. Not sure what these will be. Just extra. I'll just choose compound pouch. And the Scholar's Pack. Commit. And we'll just say Meiji. And at this point, I'm going to show you some of this little indicator here is a death indicator from the Death Indicators extension. I happen to have all the assets you can get with FGU, so I'm not going to go into where these come from. Actually, we'll say Dragonborn. Well, that one looks like a mage, really. There we go. So we got a Wizard Dragonborn. And for the death, if I don't pick anything, it'll just randomly generate a tombstone. I can go ahead and pick tombstone, or I could pick any kind of icon I wanted there. So when he dies, he's going to get that. For example, if I look at what I picked for Leaf, I'm not going to pick a tombstone. I'm going to pick a body. And this one. So when she dies, that'll be her icon. And that's dead. Otherwise, it's going to be blood splatter. And he already had his defined. So let's go ahead and get our Dragonborn Wizard out there. Currently, he has various abilities that have been automatically assigned. We look here, we see a bunch of stuff. Get these back to the way I like them. Actions, you can see it's all these things are not what you would normally see from WotC. Some of them are, but most of these you can tell are the supplemental because they'll have special symbols. Those special symbols usually just mean what to do with them in their keys. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and drop Meiji out there in the CT. You can see he fills out whatever missing stuff was there. In this case, the breath weapon, and Golden Dragonborn resistance, and we're pretty much ready to go. All my extensions, I don't want to have to do anything, think about anything, know anything. It just throws them out there and I'm ready to play. I don't care what's in them. I just want them defined for me. And that's what Equipped Effects does with A5E for me. But you can do that for anything, right? You can have Equipped Effects running off just with local data. As long as it's following the name matching rules, it'll define whatever you defined here. And these spells are essentially defined for powers for also items. If you have magical items and equip and unequip them, they'll pop in here too, based on matching the powers in here, the names, and the rules that they apply. Same for NPCs. So what do we got? We got all our guys defined. We're going to go ahead and make sure he's in the sheet. Meiji. Put him as part of the order. So he'll be our center wherever we drop it. And I'm going to use this map. In this case, we'll just zoom into where I'm going to be playing around at. This is just a standard D&D map. You can get off the TMG or someplace maps. Right, did that. Okay. Did this. Okay, yeah. If I place guys out here, I'm going to just place it rather than individually place them. I'm going to use the faction placement, and I'll use that as the center because I know I've got these, and there they are. But you can see they don't show up right now. Leaf can see lighting because she's got dark vision. Meiji can't, nor can Rapscallion. So what we'll have to do for those guys to get light, let's go to Rapscallion, look at his inventory. Has he got any lights here? He's got a lantern hooded, so I'll go ahead and equip that. Instantly, you can see it's there. If you had any special powers, it would be added into the actions. And of course, the custom effect that is tied to that item is added in, and that triggers the light. Now, of course, if I unequip the item, then any of its properties will go with it until I re-equip it. That's an EE feature. He also doesn't have lighting, but he can, as long as he's around the guy with the hooded lantern, he can see. But if we don't want to worry about him, we can also just set up. And I'm of one mind or the other for, wow, he doesn't have any lighting. So we're going to go ahead and assume that we should have given him lighting. And I guess I'll toss out a torch to him so he just has that. Okay, got a torch. Again, I happen to know that torches, right from here, he's not going to see anything except from the light from the other people. So we'll go ahead and make sure he has his torch on. There, he now has a torch, you can see. And of course, the reason you see these guys' orientation change is because I've got carrier set on here where it says move, set the orientation. And if you turned off that option for the little orientation arrow, the actual token would rotate and show the direction it was moving. And that gets into, you need to make sure your token's direction of movement is at the top of them when you define them. I had to redefine the land speeder recently because it was defined horizontal and I needed it vertical so that when I moved it, it would show the right direction relative to the graphics. Okay, what else am I doing here? I think we've got everything I want right there. Supplemental, dropped in place, show lighting. Okay. Yeah, we want to make some combat groups. Combat groups essentially, this whole top line, allow you to create groups in the CT that can be turned off or on, and a host of other options that I'll go into as we encounter them. For right now, I'm just going to call this group PCs. Any names, again, I'm lazy. I just want to key it in and have it do it for me. I have very little setup or patience for setup in any extension I make, or use. I'm going to go ahead for PCs. I have to define them all. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, because I have them in group right now, you can see I can turn them off and on or turn their visibility. One of the things I always like to do is make sure their visibility is on even when the faction's not on, because that can affect things on the map, even though they don't tell you that. That's why you'll see some things hidden, like they don't show up until you select them. They'll be see-through or something. So I like to get rid of those too. Okay, so right now we've got everything. We've placed everything we wanted. for now, I'm going to go ahead and bring up another client just to have it ready to go. All right, I've brought up the client. I'm going to make sure all the modules I want loaded. Usually do all the supplemental data. Usually do BCG, player's guide, monsters multiverse, handbook, and a handy little nicer pictures for druids that I got. Okay. Then I usually like to have these things all expanded out. Don't show again. Now, options, there's not a lot to set for these things, but I just normally see that they're the ones I can set are set the way I want. And usually that's just natural selection for me because I like the only be 75% covered. Natural selection lets you have overlapping tokens and select them out based on the window. I think that's all. We'll be done, and I think we're going to let them be Leaf for now. So we got Leaf. From Leaf's perspective, the combat groups currently are set to only show her own faction. I could also set that to show only her own group or have them both up as filters for the CT. This means, I can never understand why people let players see things they shouldn't be seeing. But, that's me. That's how all my games are designed. Right now, you can see a little bit of the assistant GM stuff that's going on. I own Leaf, so I can actually get to her window there. There's some changes to the combat tracker for assistant GM there too. Okay, I'm going to go back to our main page. Leaf's now signed in. We did the orientation. Showed the orient. Usually I turn off the grid lock to make orientation play nicer because, I'm not so particular about grids, the exact placement. But yeah, that move by orientation carrier the grids can make it move in odd directions because of the way they force the next move of the grid going in one direction or another direction to get to the grid fixed point. You don't have to know what I just told you, but that's if you want to experiment around, you can see that. Let's see. Did that? Okay, yeah. Let's take Leaf and level her up. She's basically a druid, and I guess I want to show some polymorphisms and stuff. So, okay, I had a bug before. I had forgotten to do my modules AE5E in the host to make sure that players could load them. So it gave me a bitching session gave me an error when I was trying to load up Leaf and level her up from the player side. So right now we'll go back to the player side and we'll go to Leaf. We go level up, and I did load the A5E on this now. Look at the spells, and I hope I have. Oh, you know what? We're gonna level up to 2. Forgot about that. Let's see. Prepared spells 2. Thunderwave, gotta have that. And I guess detect magic. Okay, then I commit, and again, selective true choice. Oh, all right. Class features, right. I usually pick Circle of the Moon. I want them to be wild shapey. That was one nice thing. Yeah, I did it, so I have to commit again, I guess. Oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me. Yes, I did that. Yes, I did this. Known. Got my new ones. Commit. You know what? Screw it. I'm not going to pretend to know how this crap works. Anyway, I've leveled her up. This is on the player side. So I got my combat wild shapes added in. I got my wild shapes for this initial level. I'll have to upgrade these as she levels up. Everything got added in for me automatically. And so now I'm up to what I have. And of course, if I check the map, actually I have to share the map first. Let's go do that. Once I share the map, then from the client side, I can bring the map up just by double clicking on their icon. And so now we're getting just what we see. Let's go ahead and make it, I want to show a quick wild shape change. So I'm going to go ahead and make it Leaf's turn. Just because wild polymorph won't let you change it. And also I need to load a few things that she can change into. So let's go to actions. She has wild shape as the only thing to operate on, so we'll set that. And then I'll go to my NPCs. I'm going to limit to the Druid player handbook. Oops, where's that? Druid wild shapes, because I like that module's pictures. And I believe I'm limited to a quarter when I'm level 2. And I can't fly. So we'll let her be she has seen in her life a draft horse, a giant lizard, and a giant wolf spider. But she's been in dungeons a lot. And also a wolf. I think she's seen a velociraptor. Say a panther too. Okay, so that's what you can change into. Again, I'm lazy. That just sets polymorphism things based on existing NPCs. And when I switch to it, it will actually, now I can switch from the host, but I'm going to show it from the client. Just because it's cooler. So you can see her form's been updated. I guess since it's Panther, we'll just keep up. And because it's her turn, and I have combat groups have a color setting in the options for any active things. It's called Old Eyes because I have old eyes. I like to see exactly from any distance who's got the turn. In this case, it's optional what colors I have to do this, but I picked magenta. It shows up the best on most of my maps. And so when I actually turn into something, right now I use the sheep. No, for polymorph currently in effect just means, their normal character sheet is their normal stuff. But if I actually go turn into the panther, right, he becomes the panther. And then you can see, because you got assistant GM, that you have all the actions available. And it's full control. You're not having to do anything. I have that stupid map thing on, which I don't like. Unless the players are being told not to move when they first come into something and I'm talking. So, and you can see it moving around on the orientation based on the carrier option. It lets it do that. And I can attack or do other things just like a normal thing. Control click. I own this now. Okay, that's I could also own an NPC by dragging it over and dropping it on the portrait in the host. Assistant GM will let me completely own it, and you'll get all the access on the client side for the actions. You'll also get these links that you can just bring up on the side. Just stuff you don't normally get. And I'm lazy, right? I'm not actually doing anything. All I did was I set a few things here as part of what she's seen in her life, and I can activate them or not. Now, right now, use this sheet. This is currently in effect. This is the Panther sheet. It's actually changed it into the Panther. It's already blended all these stats and stuff per the rules of wild shape. All these stats per the rules of wild shape blending. And then you've got the actual thing, and you can You could click on these things or go click on these things to do the attacks and stuff. I could also double click on her head just to see what it is, but it's do not use this sheet currently. But I do this because sometimes certain wild shapes you can get access to spells, so I'm not like preventing you from seeing your old sheet. Anyway, and then when I'm done, I would just click this back and we're back to what we were. Instant. Same sheet, no deal. And you can always look at what that is if you have ownership. I mean, if you have access to it, which they do because I've got the modules set for the druid thing and all that. That's it. That's polymorphism in a nutshell. I'm not going to go too much more into that. Okay, so let's see what was next on my list of show and tell. That's the player with the host. We leveled up the druid, barring the bug I saw for not having the actual druid spells loaded into the client. Oh, look, I put the number 4 twice. Wonderful. Okay, place NPCs. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is as a player, I'm going to go ahead or as a host, I'm going to do some of my combat tracker stuff. I'm going to get these guys out of the way just to be out of the way. Now, when I did that, when I turned those off, the player side's not going to see them either. Okay, they have additional filters on them for the factions and the groups, as I said, to prevent those from being seen when you don't want them to be. But in addition to the normal visibility things on the CT as normal. But if the host doesn't see it, they're still in the CT, right? You're just not seeing it in the CT. These things can still be operated, still be attacking, still be doing everything, but you're purely map vision, which is the only way I let my players play. I will never let them see stuff on the CT that they don't have. So right now I'm going to make a new group, NPCs, and I'm going to throw out a giant lizard. I like their picture here. I'm going to do all though, just so I have all the options. And let's get rid of that filter so it's not blocking me. Giant lizard. I like that druid shape one, so we're going to use that one. And I'll drop him in the NPC. Make him visible. Make him as an NPCs. And what do I want here? Let's pick a drow. He'll be riding the lizard. Yeah, what do I want here? Let's do a spider. I like their giant wolf spiders here, right? Yeah. Drop him in there. Also put him in that group. Now you can see those are visible there, but because I have the faction limit on the class, they're not going to see them. Which is the way everyone should play. I don't care what you say. No player should see stuff they don't see in the map through LOS and lighting appear on their CTs so they can tell. So as there's no easy way to do that, I basically just don't let them see anything in the CT, and they're completely limited to what they see in the map for targeting and everything else. That's the way I play. That's the way I think everybody should play, but hey, it's up to you how you play. So I got all these things. I just test them that they're all in there. Fine. I'm going to go ahead and drop them out here. I'm going to put them on the other side of this wall for now. Giant spider. Drow. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, and right now they don't see any of this, but I would do this as part of my session prep. I'd make all the little groups that I think they'll be running into in the dungeon and set it up. I'm just calling this one NPCs because I'm just doing this one thing. I normally wouldn't call it NPCs. I'd be calling it room 42, blah, 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 whatever. and then I'd have a whole bunch of rooms predefined, so I could just go, okay, we're ready, and I'd pop them on when they actually are ready to go. And I wouldn't need to. I mean, I could run them purely from the map, but I like, running things from the actions. Let's see. So first I'm going to go ahead and have the drow riding the giant lizard. Now this is me dragging the name over the other name, and that's carrier doing that. And essentially now he's set to follow by default, which I don't actually want him to be following. And I'm holding the shift down when I move him because currently it's got this carried follow. I'm going to do carried immobile. I'm going to make sure that his direction is the same as this one, so that when we're going around, we are actually doing it. Okay? Let me put him over there too. Come on, get over there. Okay, so he is now riding on them, and I'll get him over, so they're all pointing in the same direction. And when he's in that direction, I want him in this direction. All right. Now that you can experiment around on how to place these things or what these little options mean. Like for this guy, I'm going to want him following the drow, even though he's riding someone else. Okay, and I'm going to leave him as carried follow, which is the default, which is an option. I can set whatever I want the default carried after it's created to be. And so I'm going to go ahead and shift to make sure he's pointing in the right direction, because it matters when they're pulling around. So as you can see, now they're all following around, and they will track each other. Get a little more room here. They're actually following the point. Like if I go around this table, they'll all go around that table. If I go through a door, they'll all go through a door, because they're actually, when they're in follow mode and not like he's carried, so he's tied right to him. That's what they'll do. And that's carrier. So we go back into here, and they don't know she's out there. I think that's all I want to do with her. Oh, you know what? I want to put some guys in. Let's make sure. Show main page. Equipped. Right. Let's go to the drow. Now the main page shows all weapons and stuff, but map parcels will add an inventory tab. So sometimes if I want to be really, I'll usually just put stuff I want on there and nothing else that I want to drop. But sometimes I'll get, super detailed just to be crazy. And I'll say, okay, what kind of weapons does he have here? He has a short sword and a hand crossbow. So I'm going to actually put those in short sword into the inventory, so if he gets whacked, it'll drop as part of map parcels. Okay, so there it is. He's got a short sword, it's equipped, and he also had a hand crossbow. Well, hand, crossbow, hand, right? Let's put them there. I don't know what a hand crossbow fires, if it's arrow or bolt. Maybe a bolt. It's up to you what you have. I don't really know what they fire, but I'm going to say it's a bolt because it says crossbow. So he's got 20 bolts. And you can just keep track. How you keep track of these in an NPC is up to you. I don't really care. But when I go down here and look at what we've got, we have those things ready to drop. And certain extensions will also replace things when you equip and unequip them. Like if I unequip these, you can see the short sword's gone. And because this says hand crossbow, that's not a match, so it's not going to touch that one. But the short sword was an exact match, so it took it off of there. And then, of course, now it's probably going to add the crossbow hand now that I did that. And we'll have 2 of these, yeah. And it just figures out what it is on its own. So what I'll do here is I'll just remove that one, because I would have to create this, and I'm surprised they don't have a hand crossbow created, but That's the magic of doing this. Anyway, there we go. I'll just have to remember not to unequip or equip the crossbow because it's a different thing than what's actually defined there. In fact, just to keep things simple, we'll just do this. So anyway, when he's actually got those in his inventory, so when he drops dead, he'll actually drop dead. But any item I add into his inventory and equip, it'll appear in here with whatever it needs to set based on the power or the actual calculation of its stats. And that, I can't remember what does that. Maybe map parcel, maybe equipped effects. I use all these as one holistic extension. So I tend to just add things in and don't pay attention to what's actually doing what. So we did the have drought carried, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, and if I do these, any of these lists that we have here, right? One of the things Advantages does is it always annoyed me that I'd have to redefine what's a good list. Let's say the NPC when I go to Druids, right? It would always annoy me that I would have to go back anytime I clicked back on these or logged out and came back in. This wouldn't be the last thing picked. So it remembers the groups across sessions, which for some reason normal FG does not do. But that's just a side issue there. Drow, okay. We put some things in just to show when he gets killed that he can drop stuff. Which reminds me, if we logged into the client, we did that. I toggled that already. Place NPC mule. I guess I can do that just to show ownership. It could be any NPC. But we'll take the mule. We'll throw him out here. We'll make the mule green so he'll immediately be seen in our up. But I always want to make sure of this because it's flaky map behaviors, even when you're a owned thing. Let's put the mule there. Let's throw him here. And let's see. Let's add him into the PC group. We're done with NPCs for right now. I'll just go back to PCs while I'm working on this. So you can see how in combat groups I could work on a whole bunch of different rooms or other things. Have them all subdivided, turn things off while I'm working on them until I'm done, and then just turn them off until I'm ready to use them. Okay, so we got the mule. We go to the player side. He can see the mule, but he can't touch him. So at this point, I have two ways to do this. I will do it the easy way, which is because this is not like a typical assistant GM where somebody's controlling all the options. Like right now on the mule, it turns out that I have Silent Ruin with I can grant NPC access. And when that user gets NPC access, and any NPC I can grab control of just by clicking this. Okay. Then I will own them. And then if I turn them off, right, then I don't own them. And that's how that stuff works. But in Assistant GM, that's just, anybody who has visibility on the CT NPC and has that access granted to them can immediately control any NPC in their list. So typically what you'll do is you only grant them access when they need it, and other times you just like if I literally have an assistant GM running all my NPCs, I'll just set him up with a dummy character, dummy PC, and let him have all the NPCs visible so he can control them all. So anyway, the way I would do it is I wouldn't bother granting him access now. And when I turn that off, he would lose any NPC control he had on the player side. But what I can do is the normal stuff. Now, this is what you're used to doing. You'd say, I want to make them control of that. But what I do on my world, both polymorphism and assistant GM will override that and make it play the game in assistant GM, where you get actions, all the actions. And in this case, you wouldn't actually be able to, if you had access to the other NPCs, you wouldn't be able to ever turn this one off because he is literally owned. The only way you could turn him off in terms of owned by that particular player is if you took this link for the mule and dropped him over the clear button. Okay. And most of these have tooltips which tell you, you know, what you can do. That's pretty much it. Now, of course, I own that, so as a mule carrier, and I could make them ride it or whatever by dragging them over. Only the host can do that, the assign riders, but I own them now as that one. It's that person. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Place the NPC, mule, did ownership, show actions for NPC client, that it totally owns it, yeah. Turn off and see only same faction, set assistance. Well, I think I've already done that. Turn off NPC owners. I just did that, I think. Make dummy PC and CT. Sure, we can do this temporarily. I'm not going to keep this around. I'll delete them after I do it. But literally, this is a dummy. You call it dummy PC, but I can call it whatever I want. Usually I put some innocuous thing like do a lot of. I wonder if I have Darth on here. Yeah, sure. He's my dummy PC. Really doesn't do anything. Okay, he's just a placeholder. I'm going to go ahead and drop him in the PC. Actually, I'll drop him here. I'll create a new thing called, I'll do the NPCs, and I'll add them into the NPCs with the same faction so that any owner of that is the logged in guy's faction dictates what the faction is he's filtering on. So, and he disappeared right away because NPCs are currently not visible, right? And I'm not going to put him on the map. He's just like a control character for me. There's a lot of things you can do with that kind of power. But anyway, right here, let's go ahead and say, because I don't have multiple guys, we're going to log into my dummy PC. Immediately, you see nothing, right? He's not on the map. We still own these guys because we're solid round, so you just have to assume that if this were really another guy, he wouldn't see any of these other owned things that the same user owns. So, but you can see in the combat tracker, he has nothing that he can tell he has control over. But if I go here, back to my thing, I'm going to make sure Silent Rune has NPC access. And I'm going to go ahead and flip on the NPCs, which I now have access to. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the drow. Actually, I'm going to set ownership, right? I can't do anything until I set ownership. Some of the things have huge number of actions, so I have this extra hide details that I usually set until it becomes their turn. And I'm just taking ownership of everybody in here because I'm a true assistant GM. I'm going to control these guys. This is meaningless, so I'm not going to look at that at all. This has no meaning at all. Matter of fact, I should be able to turn him off in his own thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him in, I'll just say dummy PC because that's what it's called. I'm going to go ahead and add him into dummy PC group and turn it off. So when I go back to the player, I'm still logged in, but I'm no longer dealing with him as an actual CT entry to have a turn or anything like that. I could have set skip turn, but just too lazy. So that's what I see when I have those guys, and I've owned them all, right? So now I see them, right? Because these are the guys I own. I can control them all. Unless I, don't, right? If I turn them off, oops, then I don't control them all and I can't see it. These guys I still own technically, so I still see them. But again, you wouldn't be doing this kind of thing. You would have a completely separate player for each of these guys. And that's how you basically run it. And of course, if I flip over to her, she sees her thing. And that's just complete control of who is currently active, right? And who owns what. This is very powerful. You probably can't see it right now, but this is how I play all my games. Makes life very simple. People don't see what they don't see, and people do see what they own. So I'll go ahead and just erase him. Wow, they changed that icon. So I erase him, and he's no longer even part of the situation here. I'm also going to do something to make sure that wrong guy. That when this dummy PC is there, see right now he's owned by Silent Ruin. I could drop him over the clear and clear drop him over clear all, is it? No, I guess I have to actually erase him. If I didn't want him owned, yeah. See there, he's not owned anymore. But I actually don't need him anymore. He's actually pointless. I was just showing you, something you could do. And the wonders of CT leaving in stuff that you removed. And I don't need this anymore. We're going to hit Control A because anything you do with a mouse triggers every single character. As you move along, it's doing it every single time. Okay. Where were we? We were here. We had her. Make dummy PC, own them, showed all that. Clear assistant stuff. Yeah, showed that. Show common init. Okay. Well, one thing about initialization, I have some options set again. That when I roll all the initializations, I currently have it so the same group gets the same initialization and the same writer gets tied to the same initialization. So that when people are going through things they own in the order of the turn, they're going to go through all the things they own because my players want to do that. They didn't want things they own mixed and matched. Typically in your games, you're just going to have one PC and that's all. That's not typical in my games. A lot of times they'll be controlling groups to go out and do different things. And for this demo purpose, right, I'm basically doing essentially that. And that's just an example of how these things are set. Now I could turn those off and it would make everything not in the same group go different. Just normally. What's that? Common. It's common. Sorry, give me a second here. There we are, combat groups. So I could turn off the common initiative there, and then when I run the initiative, the only thing that got common would be or ensured that they were in the right order is the riders, because I have carriers set to, let's see, carrier, common init, so that they're grouped together also. Turn that off, and then everybody's just, anywhere. No real order. It's just constant. And I always have my order set by moving every round, reshuffles everybody. Because, again, another thing I would never not play with is letting users get familiar with whose turn is next, because they know and make plans on, well, I know the order's this right now, and and I can do things I wouldn't normally know I could do because I know he's going to go first. Well, I like to have everything random. So every round it random things. And I have to use effective initiative to ensure that all the effect timers get kept. That's another extension. Um, but yeah, my players like to have everything running in the same group. So basically, common initiative on and on. And it just ensures that the same groups have unique numbers together. And that's what I did. So, show common initiative. Show NPCs entering a room. Okay, let's say we actually started and, it was his turn. Actually, I'm going to make the drow a driver. Oops. What that means is I can actually have him drive by dragging him around himself. And a lot of times, if the animal isn't actually doing anything, where am I here? Am I in the... isn't actually doing anything, I'll come in here and I'll do something like skip turn for the carrier, right? And what that means is we'll go ahead and go to the drow. Is that the drow is able to drive everything, right, during his turn. And when the next turn comes for the other guy, he just skips him because he's not doing anything himself. Now, this happens to be a creature that can bite, so I wouldn't do that. I would actually have him getting a turn. But what we're saying right now is these guys are just coming into the dungeon, and on the other side, these guys come in, and they're all surprised, right? And they say, okay, start initiative. And we roll the initiative. Begin the attack as normal attack stuff would go. Wait, did I hit that? Right. And I'm not sure why it doesn't put those at the top. But that's where we are at the top of the list. And it looks like Rapscallion and all these guys are going to go first. Now, I'm going to skip most of these things here. And as they come in, I'm going to free up the spider to go wherever he wants. Where is he? So he's now freed of following that guy and will be moving on his own. That's about it. And usually I won't have the groups. If they're all individuals, I won't have the group common in id set. I'll just have the carrier common in id set. But I'm just demoing. Okay, so one thing I guess to show is, let's say I go with her. I might as well do the player. Say Rapscallion took his turn. And we'll say it's her turn from the player view. And she says, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a panther. I'm going to check off my wild shape. So I'm tracking what it is. And I'm going to take my turn. Panther has 50-foot movement. So I'm going to have him like run around over here and come in behind this guy. And I'll go ahead and target him by control click. Now, as a user, right, I don't see that panther in my CT. So I'm always going to be using the control click to do that. Or I could, let's control click and do it again. Let's say I do a, left right mouse button and hold the control key down. I could, if I had a global spell, right, I could go here to target, right? It'll automatically target. That's advantages. PA, I guess it's called. All part of the advantages. Basically, any kind of shape you form with left, right mouse button, minus the arrow, except, when you hold shift, you get the square. When you hold this, you get the circle. control. When you hold Alt, you get the cone. Well, all of those will allow me to target by hitting this target mode, which I've overridden. And if I hold Alt key, it'll be enemies, and if I hold Control key, it'll be only target friends. And then it'll remember the last one. Shape, there's not a good way to do it. So even though this is not there, it still remembers it until I, draw a smaller shape somewhere else that'll black it out, and then it doesn't remember it. But it's really out there. It just has to, the way the code works. Don't want to go into that. So anyway, that's that. And let's say we go to Rapscallion. What does he have on Rapscallion? Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I thought I was in the host. It's a great thing. Read your chat messages. They'll usually tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay, so I don't have a player controlling Rapscallion, so I'll just have the guy doing. See, what's he got weapon-wise? He has a short bow. So let's say he comes over here, and he comes next to this guy, and he targets him, and he fires his short bow, right? Well, there's 2 dice rolling all of a sudden, and it's at disadvantage, and it tells you disadvantage range 5. If any enemy is anywhere within 5 feet of Rapscallion, whether he's targeting him or not, he's going to get disadvantage on a ranged weapon. That's just the way it works. And of course, if I fire off all these ammo things, this is a generic actions thing, right? And then I try and fire the weapon, I can't because he's out of ammo. There's several things like that that keep you from doing things when you're in certain effect states, conditions or other things, and they're all optional to set whether you want it or not. And another thing is, let's say I used my sword, short sword. Well, I got 2 dice again for some reason, and that's because he's given flanking advantage, because this guy is within this cone of flanking. I forget the exact angle I use, but I think it's the same angle as the default control, left control. So if you have a larger creature like this, you can tell that if I were in any area along the side where the center of the token matched, he would be considered in flanking position. You can look that up on all my stuff has text files and every version info I've ever created. And I don't remember what I've created, so that's why I write them down. If you ask me what they do and I don't know and I tell you to go look at the text file, it's because I don't want to look it up for you. Look it up. That's why I wrote it down. Let's see what else. And of course, I write all these for myself and then give them to Grim Press to sell for whatever they want to sell for. But yeah, primarily I do this for me, which means I keep them up. I wish users were more effective at debugging my stuff, but I tend to always be the one to have to find the bugs. Not always, but most times. Okay, where are we? I did all that. Yeah, I could do the control. Let's say I was just over here and I did a control click. Held the control key. That's going to do advantage. That's just the advantages. I can hold the control key or the alt key for disadvantage. And when I roll a dice, it'll apply. What else? Showed flanking, did that. Showed death indicator. Okay, let's say that my attacks actually killed this guy. Lizard's dead. I'm just going to do it in the wounds here to save time. So he turns into the death indicator, and nothing happens. I mean, this lizard doesn't have anything, so that would make sense. There's no loot package. In fact, I bet I've forgotten to do loot packages, so I'm going to put him back to life because I make mistakes all the time. So I want to have wounds just automatically do stuff. Again, the key to my game is laziness. I don't want to have to do anything special. Just have all the code take care of it. Okay, so I need to make sure I made the parcels. Did I? I did not. So let's do that. I'm going to make some loot parcels. You have to have loot parcel templates for both loot and drop. That parcel template. I don't usually make a group to call it this, but why not? Okay, and then I create my map parcel, which has to be read-write accessible. Now, when I create a template, I always make sure it's not locked so they can immediately get to it, that it deletes when I transfer everything out of it, and that it can be moved by them. If I didn't want that, I would set it to locked, or I'd set it not to be able to be moved. However, this template is going to be whatever this template is. It's what's going to be dropped with all their inventory. In other words, you could put more money in these templates or other things in these templates, or tie them to different names. The key name is this for a template for loot. Now, there are some naming conventions to make those apply to certain types or named NPCs, but what I'm going to do here is just give it a bag. Right. So I've made a loot template. I'm also going to make a drop template, which I usually make the same way, so I'm just going to copy it, unlock it, call it the keyword it needs for drop templates. Drop template is in your inventory. There's a button that says you can drop things, and if you have them all not carried, set the not carried, it'll drop them all out there, or different things. You'll have to look up the actual stuff. I'm not going to go into those. So I have my loot template set. I've got my options set to allow it. I think this guy has inventory items. He does. So what I'm going to do is say that these guys had targeted him and killed him. And, oh, bummer, the drow's dead. So drow gets killed, and poof, there's a loot, right? I look in there, and there's the loot that it dropped. And if I want to drop any kind of map parcel, I now support the ability to take the link here or the links here. You have to hold shift if there's multiple of ones you want to do, or it'll just do one at a time on these links. But I usually take the whole link, and since it's set to delete when everything's gone, when I drag it into my characters to pick it up, it just all goes in at once. Now that's an inventory for a PC, an NPC, or the party sheet. And these can all play together where they get dragged into there, into there, into there. And for a drow to drag everything in, you'd use its link for the PC or the NPC up there. Party sheet, you're stuck with just individually doing each thing because they don't have a link. So let's say I made a mistake. I don't really want the drow to be dead. Somebody rolled the wrong thing. Fine, I go back. I go drag his stuff back into his inventory, and we're all back. Deleted it for me. We're back self-corrected. And I'll let you figure out what that means. It means a lot. But. Okay, show NPC power displays an NPC sheet. Adult dragon wizards are good. All right, all I'm saying there, I'm going to clear out some of this stuff just so I can show this by itself. All that means here is that, let's say I look at the Abjure. Where are you guys? Are we? Yeah, where is he? Okay. Do all. Okay, if I look at the Abjure wizard, EE is going to populate all these things with the spells that are overridden for those names, so that you're not getting a WotC version of this. You're getting a display of the actual commands. You can tell this is a supplemental data because of some of these things displayed as part of this, and it can be slower for some people, and I'll go ahead and just let you figure it out based on the options in EE to turn them off and on to see how much data you can display in different windows. And that's what all that's talking about. I could show you the dragon too, and it'd be the same deal. They have special things there. You can tell that they're it's more of a sheet than your normal sheet. That's just EE doing its thing, because we have to have supplemental data has to point to the links of the original module so that licensing is not interfered with. So all those sheets had to be modified to display the correct data, and then I wanted them to display it in terms of links and things. Okay. And the final thing. Well, we can get out of these things. All right. So I'm bringing up the SW5E campaign I created for this test. This is using data modules that I actually designed for myself to use SW5E. There's no module priority or anything in these because they're all self-contained. There is no supplemental data. They're completely all in these things. I'm not going to go into those. There's something in the forums where I post these, or the Dropbox forum if anybody wants to run SW5E. That's a whole other thing. But I wanted to use them for an example here. And that example is BCEG. And I made some of these things. I'm just going to leave them all up for the comic groups. But the incendiary mines, fragmentation mines, and gas mines are all placed out here and visible to the user. And you can see these very elaborate effects, which are using some BCEG and Aura things that do some fairly complex stuff that I'm not going to go into right now. I'm just going to show you, hey, look what this can do. So there's my land speeder, and I'm going to go ahead and stick the trooper captain and the trooper into those. They're not going to follow. They're going to be captain could be the driver if I want. I could have them both drivers, but the other guy will be immobile, which just means he has to have shift. And I'll hold the shift key down to position him where I want him. Let's say he's in the car right there. If you notice, the tokens are switching around because Carrier has that option on, but not the orientation. So these guys are actually going to flip around as they move around. And of course, they're there, but I'll have to. That's natural selection, which I really like because it lets you pick things when they're over top of other things. Okay, but the gist is here, it's a little special set of things I did with Aura and BCG and talking with both those guys a bunch to debug it to the point where this would work. And of course, the land speeder here has a death indicator token of a flaming car. This important NPC means you can have death saves and stuff going, but if you want to set a dead token NPC tokens dead token manually, you have to bring this up, drop it in there, and turn it back off. So let's say I'm driving along. Now I've come within Aura's range of this mine. It blows up. It basically turns that mine into its death indicator, which now appears to the user as a crater. It was an incendiary mine. You can see it did some stuff to the various things. There's damage to the land speeder of 7. Okay, so let's say, wow, I just got blown up pretty good. Oh, I'm in the road of both of these, and now they've both gone off, and the land speeder. God, the land speeder is still not dead. Okay, well, I want the land speeder dead. I'm going to go ahead and bring these things up. And of course, in the case of the gas mine, did it go off? No, it did not. And you see this thing? That's that stupid. There we go. I'm going to kill him just because I want to show what the whole point was. I can't believe those rolls didn't kill him. But the flaming car comes up. And at this point, the land speeder's aura will actually start affecting these troopers here, who I'm now ejecting out of the car, right? And when the trooper gets his turn, or when it comes close to his turn, right, he's going to start taking damage from that aura. Okay? That was this trooper, because the BCG is set to before the first turn, and I couldn't really get to this guy before the first turn without having the round reset. But what you can see now is, while those guys are there, the fire is going to affect them, right? And of course, they blew up something else too. And it'll just keep giving them damage until they drop down or get out of the way, right? That's just a complex way of showing what you can do with aura, BCG, and effects that affect different things. And that's it for the demo.